Monster City Madhouse, a year-round online store full of Halloween and classic horror shirts, with an emphasis on the vintage look. Use code SAVE10 for 10% off your order. MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Free shipping and financing's available. Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I am the American Hauntstorian, Alan Searcy. Hey, the holidays are right upon us. I'll let you guys know, Hexed and the Sausage King, two of my new books, they're only $9.99 right now through Christmas. They fit perfectly in a stocking. You can wrap them, put them under a tree. Someone's going to be very happy to get them. Two of my favorite stories, two of my favorite books I've done this year. Excited to have them out for Christmas on sale. Also, hey, if you're listening to us, leave a review on Spotify, on iTunes Podcast, wherever you find us. Please leave us a review, 5 stars. Let us know what you think. It helps other people find us. Also, make sure you're following us on follow Southern Ghost Stories on Facebook and Instagram. I'm answering questions that I get on those two platforms here on the show, and I plan on getting to do a lot more of those here in the next few weeks. But this week, I wanted to have some fun and just do something different. it's the holidays. The holidays are here. Shouldn't we be doing a Christmas show? Well, that's kind of the plan today. I've been digging into some of the weirdest and eeriest holiday traditions for the past, 2 weeks or so. And I want to take a deep dive into some of those eerie Christmas cryptids, holiday legends, whatever you want to call them. But I got to warn you, I guess there's 2 disclaimers on the show. I may butcher some of the names. I'm a hillbilly from Tennessee. Some of these places, like over in France, Germany, I may not have the pronunciation just right, but I'm going to do my best. Also, some of these kind of gruesome. There's harming of children in some of these. Kind of want to give you a disclaimer if you want to, hit pause or hit stop or maybe hit the 15-second button a couple of times to get through it, or just come back and listen to an older show, whatever. I just want to warn you guys that some of these eerie Christmas tales involve children getting hurt. But anyway, so one of the ones I found, it's over in France. His name is Père Fouettard. And northeastern France, Belgium, Switzerland's kind of where this legend takes place. And it's a pretty gruesome story, as I mentioned earlier. So according to this legend, this is back, I think, in the 1500s, there are 3 young boys on their way to a boarding school, and they get lost in the eastern countryside of France. Well, they find this inn out there, and they knock on the door. This man comes, Père, and he said, "Hey, what do you boys want?" They say, "Hey, we're lost. We need shelter for the night. We're on our way to school." "Okay, come on in, kids." Well, that night, Père, while the kids are sleeping, he sneaks up into the rooms. That's where it gets kind of gruesome, guys. According to this French legend, he slit their throats, and he took them downstairs into the kitchen. He chopped the boys into pieces, and he put them into a large salting barrel or brine tub. And that's where he would have cured the pork, but he was going to cure the children and eventually sell them as meat. So they sit in the barrel for 7 years. Well, 7 years later in December, there's a visitor that stops at the end. His name is St. Nicholas. He doesn't ask for a bed. He asks for dinner. Well, Père, the innkeeper, he said, "Hey, do you want some ham? I have some veal in the back." No. Jolly old St. Nick specifically demands the salted meat that has been back there in the barrel in the back of the kitchen for 7 years. Well, Père, his eyes widen. He realizes he's caught. He tries to flee and run out of the inn. Well, Nicholas, he rushed to the back and he grabbed him. He forced him to go back to the kitchen, and he opened the barrel, and the boys magically climb out. He chopped them up, but St. Nicholas, he resurrected the boys. According to the folklore, the first boy says, "I slept well." The second little boy says, "And I also." The third one says, "I thought I was in paradise." So, in most justice systems, Père, he would have been executed. Well, St. Nick, he forced the innkeeper to become his servant. So according to this French lore, Père, he must follow St. Nicholas forever because he was violent towards the children, and his punishment is he can never kill again. he must travel with Saint Nick, but serve it. He's kind of like the warning, good cop, bad cop. They say he's like a dirty monk or an old wild man. He has a long, unkempt beard. He has these dark, coarse robes. And his face is just covered in soot and coal dust. Well, the thing is, he carries a whip or like a bundle of switches. Saint Nick carries the bag of toys. Père Fouettard, he carries a wicker basket on his back with the switches, or he carries the whip. And so Saint Nick is giving presents to the good kids. Père, he gives coal, potatoes, or even onions to the naughty. So I guess if you're making a soup, it'd be okay if he came to see you, but yeah, I guess you want more presents. So it's kind of a gruesome story, but it's kind of good cop, bad cop. You can't have the gift giver without the punisher. So also another really gruesome story I found also takes place in eastern France, I guess the German border. So his name is Hans Trapp. And Hans Trapp, it's kind of terrifying because he was a human. So the story goes, he was Hans von Trotha. In the 1400s, he was a German knight. He was a marshal. Well, he was a robber baron. That's a term for a wealthy landowner who levied illegal tolls and terrorized the peasants. He's physically imposing, a very big guy, and he was just ruthless. Well, he entered a feud with the abbot of Weissenberg over property rights. Well, Hans, he'd built a dam to cut off the water supply to the town and just let them dry. Well, when the abbot complained, Hans tore the dam down, easy for me to say, and a massive flood just devastated the whole town. Killed the crops, ruined the economy for several months, even a year. Well, the act was so egregious that Pope Innocent VIII excommunicated him. This is a real guy. So in the eyes of the 15th century public, he was now literally damned to hell while he was still alive. So the legend goes, following his excommunication, he lost his wealth, lost his castle, and he fled into the woods of the Vals Mountains. So he went crazy there in the woods all alone. It just warped his mind. Well, as he's out there, he develops this insatiable craving for human flesh. Like I said, he was a wild man. He would hunt vulnerable travelers there out in the woods. So, according to this tale, Trapp, he was starving, and he saw this young little shepherd boy passing by on this path. Well, to get close without startling him, Hans Trapp, he stuffed his tattered knight's clothes with straw, and he stood in a field to mimic a scarecrow. So when the little boy walks down the path, he's going to see a scarecrow. He's not going to be alarmed. Well, when the little boy walked past a scarecrow, Hans lunged at him. He captured the child and dragged him back to his lair. Well, Hans, he sliced the boy into pieces and he roasted him over a fire. Well, just as he raised a piece of flesh to his mouth, God intervened. A bolt of lightning struck him, and it killed him instantly, stopping the cannibalism. So, because he was excommunicated, his spirit couldn't move on, and he's cursed to roam that region, specifically on Christmas Eve. And they say he doesn't appear as a knight, but as this ragged, bearded man dressed in shabby clothes, bursting with straw, all sometimes holding a flail or a whip. It's really wild, and they say, you'll find straw in your house, and you know that he's there, and it's time for you to straighten up, and it's kind of a warning to children not to, wander out in the woods, and it's really a creepy tale, man. Over in France, they got some really creepy stuff, but here's another one out there in Germany. So, Frau Perchta. So, forget the coal in the stocking, that's just a slap on the wrist. Perchta is the Christmas witch of the Alpine region. She brings wealth to the hardworking, but death and mutilation to the lazy. So there are 12 days of Christmas, but in German folklore, those 12 days are a time of danger. And also in Germany, the 12 days of Christmas, they begin on December 25th, and they go to January 6th. And supposedly, this is when the veil is thinnest. It's like a time out of time when the laws of nature are suspended, and the spirit world bleeds into the human world, and Perchta rules this limited space. Well, she's preceded by the Schabuel Perchten, who are these entities that are dressed in ragged wool and sheepskins, their face hidden behind these masks with enormous jutting wood beaks. It's kind of like those plague doctor masks you've seen, except they're made of wood. Really creepy. So they don't say anything, but they move through the village inspecting the houses because they got to, let Perchta know, hey, this one's in order, this one's not. So when Perchta, she makes her rounds, she'd find the young women and she would ask them, hey, have you finished spinning your flax or your wool for the year? Is the house clean? Is it swept? And she checks these things. So you must also eat a traditional meal on their feast day of these 12 days. Usually it's fish, some kind of porridge. But if you eat something rich or fatty that goes against tradition, you're going to be in trouble. She's going to discipline you for that. And really, it's kind of like in the Alpine society, you got to spin the flax into thread, and that was a critical task for the women. If the flax wasn't spun by Epiphany, it was considered bad luck or spoiled. So Perchta, she simply checks, the distaff, the tool which holds the unspun wool. If she finds any flax left on it, she might not just kill you. She might set the flax on fire, burning the house down, or soil the wool, so to speak. And really, it's kind of like a cautionary tale for, I guess, the women back then. Keep your house in order, or Perchta will get you. It's kind of a silly tale, but still, it's part of the French or the, German folklore over there. But this is where it gets really, really wild. So, if she finds that your house is not in order, she carries a long knife, and sometimes it shears, maybe even a sickle. Well, what she does is she slits your belly. She stuffs the belly with straw and stones, and sometimes even sweepings from the floor. Like if your house is very dirty, she will sweep the floor and take the dirt and the whatever's in the floor and stick it in your belly and then sew you up. So they say whatever she puts in your belly, the stones, the dirt, whatever, it's just to drag you down. It's a practical torture purpose. If you survive, the heavy rocks in your belly make it impossible to run. They drag you down. It's like a heavy sensation of a full stomach or the sluggishness of sloth. They, like I said, the fatty foods. If you're eating those, she'll also cut your belly open. She uses this claw chain. It's like heavy metal chain to sew your stomach up, and it's just pure horror. There should be a horror movie about this, but there's not. But it's not all gore. If your house is clean and your work is done, Perchta, she'll leave a silver coin in your shoe, or she'll give you a pail. So she's not always evil. She's just a very harsh judge of character. But like I said, she doesn't travel alone. She has the people who come before her. There's also the Perchetan. And this is kind of like, they call it the wild hunt. So Perchta, she's the leader of this group called the Wild Hunt. In this role, she's followed not by demons, but the souls of unbaptized children. Like the lost souls gather to her. And they call them the Shern Perchetan. These masqueraders, they wear tall, ornate headdresses with mirrors. The mirrors are meant to catch the sunlight and reflect it back onto the winter fields to encourage spring. Also, the Shite Perchetan. They look kind of like Krampus, rusty chains, animal pelts, demonic mask. Their job is to be loud and violent. They run through the streets to scare away the ghost of winter. They carry these bells that they say that they weigh 50 pounds. And the noise isn't just for show. It's like sonic warfare against the dormant frozen earth to wake up the seeds. So yeah, it is wild, weird stuff. Another one I found, Lussi and the Lussi in Norway, Sweden, parts of Denmark. So Lussi, so most people know December 13th is called St. Lucy's Day. It's a festival of light with girls wearing crowns of candles over in that part of the country. But in old Scandinavia, before the Gregorian calendar reform, December 13th was the winter solstice. It was literally the longest day. It was the darkest night of the year. Under the old Julian calendar, the solstice fell December 13th, but when they shifted to the Gregorian, the solstice moved to December 21st, but the superstition, it stayed on the 13th. It was believed on this specific night, the barrier between the living and dead, it was gone. Like the veil is thin, like one of the previous stories I was telling you. Humans were to stay inside, lock the doors, cover the windows. To be outside, cut and dry, was a death sentence, according to this tale. So Lucy, she's a figure of dread. She's described as having this pale, terrifying face that, sometimes presses against the window panes. Can you imagine at 1 o'clock in the morning, cold, snowy night, you wake up and you see this pale, terrifying face peeking in your window? Yeah, that's straight nightmare fuel right there. But like Santa, she gets into the chimney. She travels to the air to check if the Yule preparations were finished. Is the brewing done? Is the baking done? Is the spinning done? Kind of like Perchta, if the work has to be done, and there's punishment. If it's not done, she would scream down the chimney so loud it would shatter your eardrums. She'd violently smash the chimney flue, destroying the house's heating source in the dead of winter. That's horrible back then, especially in that part of the country where it stays cold for so long. The Lussi bite. If she caught a human, she might not kill him, but leave a mark. Unexplained bruises or rashes found in the morning. They called them Lussi kisses or bites. So, like I said, she doesn't travel alone. The Luciferta, it's like the Nordic wild hunt. It's trolls, spirits of unbaptized children, unbaptized dead, like the other previous stories. So if you were outside and the Luciferta swept past, they would just snatch you up. You'd be carried away to a mountain, never to return, or sometimes they drop you miles from your home. And when they found you, like you've just lost your mind, you'd be insane from having the Luciferta just sweep you up and just drop you. So it sounded like a storm wind if you heard it. If it came near, you're supposed to just drop to the ground, throw yourself face down in the snow in the shape of a cross and not look up. And supposedly the shape of the cross would deter the Luciferta from grabbing you and taking you. And so here's another really wild thing. In this part of the country, because the night was magical, farm animals, they would gain the ability to speak a human language for a few hours. So it's kind of like, in Disney movies, talking animals are cute and fun, but in Lussi folklore, it's an omen of death. There's a classic tale that there's a farmer, he sneaks into the barn at night to hear what the horses are saying. He hears these voices, goes out to his barn. The horse says, "It is heavy work today." Well, the horse next to him says, "It will be heavier tomorrow when we carry our master to the grave." And according to the tale, the farmer usually dies of fright right on the spot or within weeks from a mysterious illness that kills him. So the horse is right. They will have to carry their master to the grave. So Lucy's a wild tale. And But here's another one I found. It's called the Marie Lwyd. And this is like South Wales, over in the UK. So imagine it's dark. You hear a knock at your door. You open it. And standing there right in front of you is a real horse's skull, draped in a sheet, decorated with ribbons, staring you with its glass eyes. So this isn't a passive decoration. It snaps its jaws at you. And then what happens? It challenges you to a rap battle. What? Okay, so here it is. The Marie Lwyd, it's just like a puppet horse. It has to be a real horse skull that's put on a pole. Traditionally, the skull was buried in fresh lime or an anthill for the summer to strip the flesh and bleach the bones white. The sockets are often filled with bottoms of green glass bottles or shiny baubles, giving it a soulless, glowing stare. And the skull, like I said, is mounted on a wooden pole. And there's a puppeteer under a white sheet who's kind of working the jaw of this horse skull. The jaw is spring-loaded or wired, and the operator can snap it shut, and it startles people. So it's also decorated with colorful ribbons, bells, and flowers. It's this mix of festive and decay, and that's what kind of makes it so unsettling. But the Marie Lwyd, it doesn't travel alone. It's accompanied by a group of men called the Merry Men, or the Party. So I told you the rap battle, right? So when the Marie Lwyd arrives at the house, they sing a song, and they request to come inside. Well, the person in the house must sing a verse to them. They'll sing something to you, you sing it back, giving a reason why they can't enter. The floor is dirty. We have no food. This continues until one side runs out of rhymes or excuses. Well, the homeowner usually always loses, mostly on purpose. And then, because if the Marie doesn't get to come in, it's considered bad luck. Once the Marie Louis wins, the skull rushes inside, snapping its jaws at all the children and making noises, while the men who accompany it drink all the homeowners' ale and eat all their food. It's a wild tale. It's kind of silly. I have heard of this before I really started digging in. But it connects to like the ancient Celtic horse worship. The horse was a symbol of fertility and war. It's likely a pre-Christian survival ritual marking the death of the old year and the birth of the new. But it's kind of fallen out of favor in the 19th, 20th century. But in the mid-20th century, heavily in the 21st century, it kind of made a big comeback. In places in Wales, they host this massive Marie Louis festival, and it's kind of become the symbol of Welsh identity and resilience during the wintertime. So here's another fun one. This is like Greece and Cyprus, Turkey. Forgive me for the pronunciation, the Kallikantzaroi. Well, forget elves on the shelf. These are goblins in the gutter. Imagine a swarm of thousands of hairy, smelly little beasts who live underground for 353 days a year. They don't make toys. Their full-time job is to saw down the tree that holds up the earth, and their goal is to destroy humanity. Well, the only reason we're alive is they get distracted by the smell of Christmas sausages, and they come to the surface to harass us for 12 days. 12 days of Christmas. So the Kallikantzaroi, they dwell underground, and there's this massive tree, according to this folklore, that holds up the earth. Well, they spend all year sawing at this trunk, trying to make the world collapse. And by Christmas Eve, the trunk is kind of like, it's on its last leg. It's about to collapse. Well, that's when they smell these sausages. People are cooking good food for Christmas. And these little goblins, hey, let's go up and torment the humans. And when we come back, we'll finish the tree, right? So unlike Santa's elves, no two look alike. They have hairy bodies. They're kind of a mixture of animal parts, boar tusk, monkey arms, donkey ears, cloven hooves. They smell like wet fur and rot. They speak with a lisp or unintelligible grunts. They come down the chimney because obviously the doors are locked. And they don't want to kill you, even though they want to collapse the earth. But they want to make your life miserable. They're agents of chaos. They urinate on the fireplace, trying to put the fire out because, it's cold. They defecate in the flour bin. They open the jars of milk, hoping they'll spoil. They jump on the humans' backs and force them to dance and carry them until the human collapses from exhaustion. So there are ways to defeat them. And my favorite one, you have to leave a colander or a strainer. If you're making spaghetti, a little thing, you pour the spaghetti in, it makes all the water drain out. You leave one of those on your doorstep. Those little goblins, they're obsessed with counting, and they will try to count all the holes. But here's the deal. They can't count past the number 3 because of the Holy Trinity. They're evil. The Holy Trinity, they surrender to it. Once they get 1, 2, 1, 2, they get stuck in this loop, and they keep counting because they have OCD, and they count there until the sun rises. And usually the sun burns them up, or they hover back underground. Once they get back underground, they find that this big, massive tree holding the earth up, it has regrown. And so they start sawing at it again until they come up the next year for Christmas. So here's another one. This is kind of like an American, New Orleans, kind of Cajun. So in Cajun folklore, the Lutin is kind of like the Bayou's answer to the elf, but it's not very helpful, and it's a whole lot much more malicious. These shape-shifting goblins, and they're said to be the spirits of unbaptized children. They haunt the swamps and the farms there in Louisiana, and they cause chaos. They don't bring any cheer. Well, during the holidays, they're notorious for dampening the festivals by souring fresh milk, or they hide presents. They do a lot of pranks. Sometimes at night they'll go ride the horses on the farms, to wear them out the next morning where they can't do their chores or they can't help plow the fields or do whatever they do. Sometimes the farmers will go out and find their manes have been braided into tight, impossible knots. That means the Lutin have been out there just, messing with them all night just to make your life miserable. So they're kind of like the goblins. They're also OCD. And they say you can scatter objects like rice, cornmeal, or sand on the porch, or hang a colander on the doorknob, kind of like the goblins. And they want to count everything. So since they're easily confused, they'll lose count and start over endlessly. They remain trapped on the porch until the sun rises, and they get to flee back into the dark. And here's one I found from Canada. And this is kind of a fun one. It's more like a New Year's Eve kind of tale. La Chasse Galerie. It's the ultimate French-Canadian cautionary tale about holiday travel. So in the woods of Quebec, many, many years ago, hundreds of years ago, these lumberjacks or fur traders are stuck back there in the wilderness, and they want to go back home for New Year's. They want to see their girlfriends. They want to go to parties. They want to see their friends. Probably want to watch some college football. No, actually, that's 20th century. Anyway, they were so desperate to get back home for New Year's, they would cut a deal with the devil himself. So the devil would grant them this magical birch bark canoe that could fly in the air at incredible speeds. So if they're out there in these remote forests, they could get back to their villages in a single night. But, like all the deals of the devil, they have a price. So they're allowed to keep their souls, but there's a couple conditions. These lumberjacks, they must never utter the name of God. They must be back before sunrise, and most importantly, they can't touch a cross or a church steeple while they're flying in the devil's boat. So it sounds easy, but as the night goes on, the men get drunk on whiskey. The flight back, it becomes a terrifying, chaotic ride through the pitch black winter night. And in some of the versions, the devil himself takes over the canoe and he starts crashing into church steeples on purpose. So this is where they failed the test. And, as they're crashing into the steeples, they also would take the Lord's name in vain. And they're kind of just doomed. They've paid with their soul. And that's when the devil takes possession of them. And so they say on old stormy winter nights, these old timers, they say they would see a streak across the moon. It's not a cloud, but it's the phantom canoe of the damned still trying to get back home. So, there's all kinds of weird tales all over the country. So which one do you think is the most eerie? Leave me a message on Facebook or Instagram. I think the eeriest is probably the Hans Trapp, the Christmas Scarecrow. I'm surprised that's not a horror movie yet. That's just really, really eerie. So, hey, Christmas is coming up. Monster City Madhouse, MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Every day is Halloween. They specialize in premium Halloween and classic horror shirts with a vintage look. Use code SAVE10 for 10% off your order. Makes a great Christmas present. Free shipping and financing is available. I'm sure you've seen some of their stuff. The gravestone, it's got like the classic Universal monsters walking through a desert, kind of like Tombstone, the movie, Val Kilmer, all those guys. I tell you, Monster City Madhouse got some really cool shirts. My buddy Ben owns the company. Good guy. Go check him out. Also, after you get your Monster City Madhouse shirt, go grab Hexed. It's on sale. Makes a great stocking stuffer. Sausage King also is a great stocking stuffer. Leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you found us. Give us 5 stars. I really appreciate you guys. And also, check back next time. I'm going to do a second show on some more eerie Christmas legends I found. It's so much fun. It's just tip of the iceberg. There's wild stuff all over the country, or all over the world. Stuff in Japan. I found some stuff in America. So just follow us on Instagram, Southern Ghost Stories. Find us on Facebook. And I'll see you guys in a few days.